You used to be the good guy back in college. You organized protests for clean water. You volunteered at homeless shelters. You believed the system was broken and you were going to fix it. You ran for city council at 26. Your platform was simple: transparency, accountability, serving the people. You won by 12 votes. You actually did it. You exposed corruption in the public works department. You pushed through affordable housing initiatives. Local newspapers called you a breath of fresh air. You felt like a hero. Then you ran for Congress. Bigger stage, bigger stakes. You needed money for the campaign. Lots of money. A businessman showed up at your campaign office. No appointment. Just walked in. Said he liked what you stood for and wanted to help. He wrote a check for $50,000. You asked what he wanted in return. Nothing. He said, just keep being you. You won the election. You went to Washington. You were going to change everything. 3 months in, the businessman called. There was a vote coming up. A small tax provision. Nothing major. Would you consider voting yes? You looked at the bill. It was complicated, dense. The provision would save his company maybe $2 million in taxes, but it would also save thousands of other companies money too. Job creators, economic growth. You voted yes. 6 months later, another call, another vote. This one about environmental regulations, loosening restrictions on manufacturing waste. You hesitated. This one felt different. You'd campaigned on environmental protection, but the businessman explained it carefully. The regulations were killing American jobs, forcing factories overseas. Was that what you wanted? Foreign countries with worse environmental standards doing the manufacturing instead? When he put it that way, voting no seemed almost irresponsible. You voted yes again. Your environmental groups were furious. They felt betrayed. You lost some supporters, but you gained others. Business groups started praising you. Pragmatic. They called you realistic. The businessman invited you to dinner. Expensive steakhouse. He had friends he wanted you to meet. Other business leaders. They all had the same complaint. Too many regulations. Too much red tape. They just wanted to do business. You started taking their calls, making introductions, helping navigate the bureaucracy. Nothing illegal, just helping constituents. That's what representatives do. 4 years later, you ran for Senate. The businessman and his friends donated the legal maximum. Then their wives donated, their children, their employees, their company's PACs. Suddenly, you had $3 million in campaign funds. You won in a landslide. The Senate was different. More power, more access, bigger players. That's when you met the fixer. He showed up at your office unannounced. Expensive suit again. This man made no appointment. Your assistant tried to stop him, but he walked right past her. He sat down across from you and smiled. I solve problems, he said. For people like you. You ask what kind of problems? The kind that end careers. The kind that ruin lives. I make them disappear. You should have kicked him out, called security, reported him. Instead, you asked him how. He leaned back in his chair. You have an opponent in your next election. Young guy, lots of energy, clean record. He's gaining in the polls. You knew who he meant. The polls had you up by only 5 points. What if, the fixer continued, someone discovered he had a gambling problem? Nothing illegal, just debts, bad decisions, the kind of thing that makes voters nervous. Well, does he have a gambling problem? The fixer smiled. He will. You told him to leave. You said you weren't interested. But he left a card on your desk. Just a phone number, no name. 3 weeks later, your opponent was still climbing in the polls. Your advisors were panicking. You were going to lose. You called the number. 2 days later, photos surfaced. Your opponent at a casino. Tables full of chips, looking drunk, looking reckless. The photos were fake. You knew they were fake. Doctored, they were fabricated. But they looked real. Real enough for the news and real enough for voters. Your opponent denied everything, called it a smear campaign, but the damage was done. You won re-election by 12 points. The fixer called the next day, said you owed him a favor. You'd pay eventually. Everyone pays. You asked how much. He laughed. I don't want money. I want access. That meant names of people who needed favors, contracts that needed approving, regulations that needed ignoring. You told yourself you'd stop after this one, after the next one, after you secured your position. But the fixer always had leverage, always had something new, always had a way to remind you what he'd done for you. 6 years in the Senate, you'd become untouchable. Leadership positions, invitations to everything, and you'd done things, dark things, things you couldn't take back. You'd helped bury investigations, made phone calls to judges, ensured certain cases never went to trial, connected people who should never be connected. Nothing directly traceable to you. The fixer made sure of that. But you knew. Late at night, alone, you knew. When the president asked you to be vice president, the fixer called before you could even celebrate. Congratulations, he said. Now we can really do some work. That was 2 years ago. Now you're sitting in your office with marble floors and oil paintings of dead leaders. Secret Service agents stand outside your door. You still tell yourself you're one of the good guys, that you're playing the long game, that once you reach the top, once you're president, you'll cut ties with the fixer. You'll go back to your roots. You'll be the hero you were supposed to be. You tell yourself this late at night when you can't sleep. When the guilt creeps in, but deep down, you know the truth. You know what you've become. The climb isn't over yet. You're not done. One more step. One more position. The presidency. And you'll do whatever it takes to get there. The phone on your desk rings. You know who it is before you answer. The fixer. He wants to meet tonight. Says it's urgent. You meet him in a parking garage. We have a problem, the fixer says. There's a journalist, young woman, smart. She's been digging into your past. Senate campaigns, committee votes, financial records. What did she find? Nothing yet, but she's getting close. She knows the right questions to ask. What do you suggest? The fixer pulls out his phone, shows you a photo. The reporter. She's leaving her apartment building, coffee in hand, completely unaware she's being photographed. I can make her go away. Not permanently. Just discredit her. Ruin her reputation. Make sure nobody takes her seriously. You stare at the photo. This is different. This isn't fake photos of an opponent. This is destroying someone's life. Someone innocent. Someone just doing their job. How? You hear yourself ask. Better, you don't know the details. Plausible deniability. Just give me the green light. You should say no. You should walk away. You should turn yourself in and accept the consequences. But you've come too far, sacrificed too much. You're so close to the presidency, so close to everything you've worked for. You look at the fixer. You nod. Good, he says. Consider it handled. 3 days later, stories start appearing. The reporter has been accused of plagiarism, fabricating sources, ethical violations. The accusations are lies, manufactured, planted, but they work. Her editor puts her on leave. Her reputation crumbles. Nobody will publish her investigation now. Nobody will believe her. You watch it happen from your office. You feel sick, but you also feel relief. You're safe. For now. The presidential campaign launches 2 months later. The rallies are enormous. Thousands chanting your name. You shake hands, you make speeches, you smile for cameras. But at night, you see the reporter's face. The accusations that destroyed her. The lies you let happen. You win primary after primary. You secure the nomination. Then, 3 months before Election Day, something happens. The reporter resurfaces. She's been quietly rebuilding, gathering evidence, finding sources willing to talk, people who worked with the fixer, people who know what happened. She publishes everything, not just the smear campaign against her, everything. Your Senate campaign, the fake photos, the buried investigations, the fixer's entire operation. She can't prove all of it, but she proves enough. The story goes viral. Every outlet picks it up. Your opponents call for investigations. Your allies go silent. Your poll numbers collapse. 2 weeks before the election, you're down by 15 points. It's over. Everyone knows it. The fixer calls one last time. He can still fix this, he says. One more play. Something big. Something that changes everything. You know what he means. Something drastic. Something that would cross a line you can never uncross. You think about it. Really think about it. For the first time in 15 years, you say no. You're done. You tell him. He warns you. He goes down, you go down. He has records, recordings, everything. You don't care anymore. You hang up. You lose badly on election night. Afterward, you sit alone in your hotel room, and your phone buzzes. Thank you for finally doing the right thing. The reporter. You stare at the message. Then the FBI calls. They want to talk about the fixer, about everything. You tell